Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Teacher Development Webinars. Teacher Development Webinars is a social action project implemented by British Council Active Citizens in Pakistan as a response to COVID-19 crisis. It is an initiative to support teachers and educators around the world with professional development opportunities. We are thankful to Master English Training for sponsoring a Zoom account. And in our today's webinar, Hope Helping Teachers and Students Excel, we will explore the hope theory and how to be a hope agent in this scenario. We will learn ways to help teachers help their students define their goals, solve their problems, come up with viable strategies and solutions, and finding ways to motivate each other and their students in order to increase hope levels. For today's webinar, we have Dr. Donita Grissom. Dr. Donita Grissom is an educational consultant, curriculum designer, instructional coach, lecturer, researcher, and full-time faculty member at UCF. She holds a BS in elementary education, a specialization in early childhood, a master's degree in instruction and curriculum, a specialization in TESOL, and a PhD in TESOL. We are very pleased to have you here, Dr. Donita.
Thank
Over
you.
to you.
Thank you so very, very much. Um, I'm going to, can I share my screen now?
Sure.
Okay, thank you so much. And, okay, take me a minute here. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Um, Let me get this ready and so I can properly.
You need to, make it on the full screen mode
Yes,
using F.
yes,
Mhm,
I'm
using F5.
working, I'm working on that. I'm sorry, I'm a little slow here. Um, I'm
If you press F5, it'll,
There we go.
yep,
I got
great.
it. Are we good there? Okay. So I just need to go back a couple slides here. First of all, it is an honor and a privilege to be spending this time with you. For me, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, so I have my coffee cup here full of coffee. And for you, it's evening, so maybe you're going to have some tea with me. And getting ready for your evening. So, some of you, I hope I may know some of you. I know I have lots and lots of friends. I know many people in Pakistan. I love Pakistanis. I've worked with hundreds of teachers and people in Pakistan. I visited Pakistan last year for a week with RELO, the Regional English Language Office. I've worked with Pakistan TESOL. And so it's an honor to me to be able to share this time with you. So, without further ado, I would like to start my presentation about hope. And I first always share my story about how I found hope. And actually, I usually say how hope found me. And there's a reason I want to share this quick story because, and you'll see in a moment why. When I was right in the middle of my PhD several years ago, I was doing research in the country of Haiti. And I was doing research in a different uh, area. And it was education, but anyway, it was a different area. And my husband was a contractor, and it was 1 year after the earthquake. And so in Haiti, and he was helping to rebuild some of the buildings. So I left. I had to go back to the United States in Florida. That's where I live. And I had to go back to the university on a Sunday. And on that Thursday evening, I spoke to my husband, and I could tell he didn't sound good, but I thought he was just tired from his work. And the next morning, I got the phone call nobody ever wants to receive. My husband had been killed in an accident, construction accident in Haiti. So, of course, that was my personal earthquake. So, going through that time was extremely difficult. And I wasn't even sure if I even wanted to finish my PhD. But with that being said, over about a month worth of time, I woke up one morning and realized that having 2 years of a PhD wasn't going to do me or anyone else any good, that I needed to finish this coursework. But I didn't think I could continue with the research I'd been doing because I had been interviewing a lot of Haitian people. My husband's voice was on those tapes, and I couldn't bear, I've still never listened to those tapes. I couldn't bear it. And I was always concerned when I was teaching high school English learners and immigrants and refugees from around the whole world, including Pakistani students and every other country you can imagine. I was always concerned about the trauma that students felt just from even traveling to another country to live. And there was many other issues that my students presented themselves with. So uh, was I was enlisted to have my cognate, which is like a minor in social work counseling, because I thought that was a vein of research I wanted to start. However, so I was in a class with social work counselors at this moment in time. And my professor called me in and said, "Listen, what are you going to do your dissertation on?" And I said, "Well, I was doing research in a whole different avenue, but I can't do it anymore. But I'm really concerned with trauma." And she turned to me and said, "Well, you can't measure trauma with this population as it relates to the earthquake because it's too far from it. You would have had to have measured something to do with that sooner, but you can measure hope." I didn't really even understand exactly what she meant, but I broke into tears and I knew, you can just have a knowing sometimes. I knew that this was for me. So since that time, I have spent my life and energy researching and studying about hope. And it has changed my life. And I tell you that long story to say, look, if I can learn about hope and incorporate hope, and hope could raise in my life in that horrible situation, it can happen for anyone. And I want you, for your personal life, to know that today. And I hope that our time together today will increase your personal hope. And actually, research tells us the first step in increasing your hope, your personal hope levels, is just knowing what hope really is. And that's my big goal today. I want to introduce to you what hope really is. And then we're going to spend some time talking about a few ways that we can increase that hope. And first of all, in your lives as teachers. Second of all, then, how you can do this for your students. In the days and times that we live in our world, and all the situations that we're faced with, and the results of COVID, and our teaching is changing as we speak, um, we have a lot of issues, um, not to mention the things we already were dealing with. So, with all that being said, let's talk about what is hope. So, I just am curious, when you mention the word hope, the first thing that came to my mind was, mm, that's kind of like just wishful thinking. That's what I thought. It's just wishful thinking. And since I have been doing my research, I have found that there is an element of wishing and, for the best to come in your life. But hope is much more critical thinking than that. It's much more concrete. Okay. It's not just hoping or wishing that, we can get rich someday, or hoping and wishing maybe, perhaps, I'm a widow now. Maybe I'll find a very handsome, young, rich man. I don't know. I'm just whatever you might want to wish for. It's more than that. Okay. So let's talk about it, what it really is. So hope has to do with your perceptions in your brain. So we're talking about the brain, right? How you look and perceive the world, how you look and perceive people, how you look and perceive situations. So it's perceptions. Now, there are three components to hope. All three must be present in order for it to be hope. So that's really important as we separate it, for you to understand that it has to be all together for it to actually be hope operating. Okay. So the first component of hope is a goal or a problem. So I hope that you know that we all have problems. If there's someone in here who doesn't have a problem or doesn't have a goal, maybe we can talk afterwards. But we all have some sort of problem, some sort of goal. And to tell the truth, we probably have a lot of them, right? So that's the first component. And the next component is the pathway. How? How are we going to solve the problem? What are our strategies? What are the steps? What are the things we can do to realize our goal, meet our goal, or solve our problem? So you have to have strategies, right? And then the third component is called agency thinking. It's the motivation factor. It has to do with our perception of, are we going to do this or not? And here is the more stronger message, that the motivation or agency thinking factor or component says, I am going to meet this goal or solve this problem. And the pathway says, and this is how. So we're going to break those down and talk about each one of these components as we move along. So
Great. And Donita, I see two slides on your screen. If you could make it one slide, we'll be better able to see it.
okay, so let me just redo this. I have it in a different mode here. If you'll just give me a moment and bear with me, I'm so sorry. I'm going to try to, now is that better? Is that good?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, thank you for that. So if you have any questions about what hope is, you just jot down your questions, and at the end, I will try to answer all your questions, okay? So at the very bottom of this slide, though, it says we can become hope agents for each other. So that is not necessarily a component of hope, but I would argue very strongly, and of course the research talks about this highly too, that if we help each other in our conquest of meeting goals and solving problems, uh, it's a huge factor in realizing a goal or solving a problem. We have a stronger chance of doing this. And so I'm going to break that down for you today too, as well. So I want to give you some facts about hope. And these facts come from years and years and years of research. So it's not just something people made up. I mean, it's been highly hope theory, Snyder's hope theory. He's the late Dr. Snyder. He spent years validating this, and it's the most validated hope theory that there is out there. Okay. So I want to give you some facts. Hopeful people spread hope. So that's why today, when I'm talking to you, I'm going to be talking about increasing your hope, because you can't give something away that you don't have, right? So as a teacher, We need to increase our hope and put these actions and strategies in our personal lives so we can turn around and truly help our students, right? And this is exciting. Look, if your hope is not as high as you would like it to be, you can learn how to have more hope and you can teach it. And I'm going to show you some of that a little bit later. Hope can increase or decrease. This is so great to me because no matter where you are in your life today, no matter what circumstance that you face in your life today, it doesn't have to stay that way. And that factor alone is a hope booster, I call it. Just knowing. Some people, they just throw in the towel. That's what we say here, meaning they give up. And let me just give you something else to think about. The opposite of hope is hopelessness. And when people have hopelessness in their life, it's like they're paralyzed. They're not moving. They're not going from point A to point B. They're not setting problems. They're not meeting goals. They're stuck. And that causes a lot of emotional turmoil, consternation, uh, depression, disappointment. And the good news is this can be changed. Okay. So I hope you're getting excited because every time I refresh myself with all of these facts, I get excited too. And I'm excited for you. So hope is a choice. And the reason it's a choice is because it starts in the brain. It's your thoughts. You can choose to think about strategies or not. You can choose to change fearful thoughts into thoughts that are courageous and cause movement towards your goals or solving your problems. And there's many, many other thought patterns that we can work with in order to flip them into more hopeful, motivational thoughts. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. I'm not telling you something that's a pie in the sky or something that's just happenstance. I'm telling you things that we can work on and we can work on together. We can start recognizing in our reactions to problems and we can stop ourselves and say, wow, you know, I, I was I was feeling hopeless about this situation, but I can change that. I choose to work on it. Okay, so it's a choice. Um, Hopeful thinking is has been in a lot of research associated with competence and self-esteem. And I want to say something about that because people who have a higher self-esteem, that's what they think about themselves and their abilities, they're more hopeful thinkers. They set more goals and they reach more goals. And isn't that what we want for ourselves and our students? Okay. So if we can work on our hopeful thinking and these three components here, then we can help raise the self-esteem of ourselves and our students. And so we want to do that. um, High hope is related to greater scholastic achievement. And this has been in many, many research studies, it's been proven, and social competence. Now, that's a mouthful right there. So, I want to just tell you a little bit of the research about the scholastic achievement. And I'll probably see this on further slides, but I'm just kind of moving through. I like to kind of flow with my speaking here. It's been proven that hopeful students with higher hope levels, and this is measured, by the way, by instruments, and I can provide those to you if you would like those. But students with higher hope have scored a whole letter grade higher than students who are lower hope students. Wow, teachers. I mean, wouldn't we like to see, don't we want our students to achieve scholastically, academically? Well, if that's not enough for you, here's another one. Hopeful students have scored higher on their achievement or state test. Wow. So I know your students take that end of school big exam. Excuse me. And wouldn't it be great if we could all along in their education with us be raising their hope at the same time they're learning academically? And the two together would help them to have higher scores. I think that is just a win-win situation, right? And there's many more studies out there. There's a higher graduation rate in hopeful students. Um, there's many more, but I will move on. Hope is a strength that can buffer against negative life events. So what we have found in that is we've measured hope um, in people who have suffered negative life events. For example, Hurricane Katrina was one huge study, and cancer patients, um, and many, many other studies that have studied hope with people enduring a negative life event. And what has been found over and over and over, that people who have higher levels of hope, it helps them cope with their negative life event. It doesn't mean that that's going to cure cancer. Please don't hear me say that. I'm not. Excuse me. But it helps them in their overall ability as they're living this part of their life's journey. It helps them to cope. It helps them to get through these negative events in a more positive way. And so that's a few powerful facts about hope. And actually, I have more. Hopeful people see the future better than their present. It's important as teachers that we can help our students see a better future for themselves, but not just see it. We need to give them concrete steps of how to achieve that, and help them with that thinking, and I'm going to talk more about that strategically in a moment. Hope is not related to intelligence. So if you're telling yourself, or you hear a student say, well, I'm not very smart, I'm not very good at this or that, it doesn't matter. You can still have high hope. And I love that fact. As a matter of a fact, I did my dissertation measuring hope levels in illiterate Haitian population. And what I found in my study is that the Haitian people measured right below the mid range of hope, which is actually uh, pretty awesome considering the things that their environment that they have they live in. Okay, and so that's really a good thing. I was astonished, and so just learning that about them gave me great respect, and it increased my hope level to know that people who are enduring a lot of negative instances can still manage to garner hope, and especially when they work together to do that. So that's incredible. Hope is not related to income. Now that's one of my favorites, because as teachers, we don't make a lot of money. We're not in this to get rich, right? We do this because we love children, we love people, we want to see them have a better future, and we like to nurture our students and help them grow as people. And so whatever your income level is, you can have hope. It does not matter. You can hope for a better future because it's a concrete, critical thinking, perceptive construct. High hope people perform better at work. They have found that employers who foster hope, they create a happier working environment because their employees are happy. Okay. And this is really interesting. Neuroscience has proven that our brains are primed to follow people who have higher hope. So, teachers, as you work on your personal hope, your students, their brains are going to be primed to want to follow you. Okay. And let me explain what that means. They have found that in neuroscience, when you're working with hope, it's positive thing, right? And it actually increases, it lets off endorphins, which are hormones and good hormones, and it helps people, their brains, to just open up to possibilities and to working to find more strategies and have more motivational thinking. And so it's been measured and it's been proven. Um, that is, I mean, I think I could just stop right now, and I think you all will be uh, pretty much persuaded that this is a powerful, powerful thing in our lives, all of our lives. And as I mentioned earlier about the grade level, it's we can put it in percentage wise. Hope has been shown to have a 12% gain in academic performance. Oh, and let me go back to the brain for a moment. Here's the other side of that coin. If we are teaching and we create a fearful environment with our students, meaning we're constantly, some teachers might degrade their students, they might demean their students, constantly being negative, constantly, I mean, they're not encouraging their students at all. The, the opposite of that is when that happens, there's a place in the back of the brain that shuts off. And the brain, it just shuts off. It's not something that students want to do. It's just when negativity comes to them, they feel like failures, their brain just shuts off, and they're not going to absorb any of your teaching or any of your any messages. We don't want that. We want to create an environment that is comfortable, that's engaging, so our students can learn. And so we can't ignore this because we want academic achievement as teachers. I mean, that's what we're doing. That's our business to do. But unless we pay attention to the whole child and everything that's going on in the whole child, we're not going to get as far as we want to get academically. So these two work hand in hand. And high hope people are just happier people than their low hope friends. Okay. I've already mentioned that hopeful students have overall higher grade point averages. They experience less anxiety with test taking, which can be very important. Students who are stuck or discouraged, they lack energy to get things done. Look, you can have a plan, but if you don't have that thinking that's going to get you moving and actually performing those plans, you're still not going anywhere. I call the motivational thinking the gas you put in your car, your tank. It's that fuel that gets you moving and accomplishing one step at a time. Okay? Low hope students tend to give up. If they have, let's say they have a step and that step doesn't work, eh, just give up. See, I told you that wasn't going to work. That's kind of how they're thinking. And so we want to, as teachers, step in and offer them other pathways. Okay, maybe this strategy didn't work for you. Let's try this other strategy. Let's try something else. Because low hope brains don't come up with their own alternative pathways on their own. As teachers, we have to help our students come up with pathways. So we need to be having these discussions together. And then we need to be helping them to see every day, if this strategy doesn't work, then let's try something else. Okay? And so, um, as teachers, it's critical, as I've said earlier, to increase your own hope so you can help your students increase theirs. It's very important. Now, I'm not going to stop. I've given you here the hope assessment, but because of our timing, um, you're going to have this PowerPoint, so you can go through this hope measurement, and you can answer the questions. And I've given you the formula here, and so you can come up with your own hope level. So this is the hope assessment, but I don't want to stop and do it right here because it will take up too much of our time, but you will have this. So this will tell you where you are like right now, okay? And then as you do some of the strategies um, that I present to you today, your hope will start to increase. And there's actually a student hope scale that if you would like, I can send that to you. If you would like to work with your children on raising their hope scores, it's important to know where they are as they begin. And then you work out some of these strategies. And then it's important to measure later on so they can see how their hope is increasing. So I can send that to you. If you would like it, let me know and I will send it to you. And then this just describes what your scores mean. So you will have this information. So I've also included a chart uh, which describes the characteristics of a person who has high hope versus a person who has low hope. So let's look at that a moment. Person with high hope will set many more goals than a person with low hope. So if you're wondering why some of your students aren't interested in setting educational goals, um, maybe this gives you a little explanation why. And so, um, high hope people set specific goals and realistic goals versus low hope people who set vague and unrealistic goals. And what that means is the more realistic and specific a goal can be, the greater chances are that you can find um, pathways or strategies that will be specific enough to reach those goals. So that's very important to work on that. And we will talk about that a little bit in more depth as we move along. I'm trying to kind of take you along a little bit by little bit. Um, it's important that high hope people create multiple pathways to goals versus low people have very few pathways. That's really important because to reach a goal, you have to have strategies, okay? Um, and I've already mentioned high hope people have high motivation. They're skilled at creating alternative pathways. They believe in this process of goal pursuit, okay? And they view obstacles as a challenge, whereas discouraged students are they stop at obstacles. Now that's important because if you have those students that get a bad grade, they don't know how to do a specific skill in academia, and they fail. And this is what they say to themselves, or they may even say out loud, "See, I told you, I'm a failure. I knew I couldn't do this. I'm not even going to try anymore." So that's one of the reasons that you have low engagement with some of your students. They don't have the belief in themselves. And this is the beautiful thing. We can turn that around, but it'll take work. Okay. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. Um, High hope people and students have confidence in their skill. And the reason they have confidence is because they believe in the goal producing and realization cycle, and they've had success over and over and over again. So they're not as afraid. It's like, hey, I did this once, I can do it again, and I will do it again. And that is what hope does for you. It goes in a cycle. And so we can start producing this cycle in low hope students. Okay, we can do this. So let's talk about goals. What are some of the things that we can do to help our students with their goals? Now, this can be their overall life goals, but we can also apply this as I mentioned earlier to anything in their life. But as educators, let's talk about our learning goals. And in particular, if you teach English, you could apply it to your teaching and learning English as a second language, the goals there. So we can apply this to any kind of a goal or any problem, anything. So with a goal, sorry, this, okay. We need to set feasible goals. So let me explain what I mean by that. So if we're thinking about learning English, that is a huge goal. It's going to take a lot of time, right? So we need to then separate that huge goal into many little, little goals. We call those sub goals, little goals. Okay. And as we meet or our students are successful in those meeting those small goals, we celebrate. Listen, celebration is one of the key things that we can do to increase the motivation agency thinking that I can do. And I give this example. When I was teaching ESOL at the high school level, that's English as a second language, at the high school level, my students had a hard time wanting to put periods at the end of their sentences or, question marks or exclamation points, right? So I had specific lessons where I really focused on that sub goal of putting punctuation at the end of their sentences. It was important at the high school level because they, at 10th grade, they have to take a high stakes assessment in writing. And punctuation marks was a huge factor in that rubric, that assessment, right? So I used that sub goal of working with them. So when I would see my students put punctuation at the end of their sentences, I had an enormous celebration. See, we want to be very specific in our praise. I mean, telling students you did a good job is great, but I did a good job at what? Remember this. To increase motivation, and I know I'm not at that slide yet, but to increase that motivation, I want to give them specific praise. And this is what I did. I love how you put periods at the end of your sentences. I love those question marks. Look at those incredible exclamation points. Guess what? When students hear specific praise, they like it. It feels good. So, guess what they do? They'll have periods from the rest of the way through because they want to please you. They want to hear how good they are doing. Does that make sense? So let's be specific in our praise and let's give them more praise than we do condemning them. So, what do we do when a child is not doing something correct? Let's tell them, I believe in you. I know you can do this. So let me give you another strategy. I'm going to give you another chance. And I believe that you will do this as I help you. What a different message to give them. And now, does that mean that they will take that message and immediately believe it for the rest of their life? No. It's been proven that it can take 27 days, I believe it is, something like that, to create a habit. Now, but if they hear this over and over, and if you're the kind of teacher that says these things to them and you actually do help them, I believe in you, I'm going to help you, here's some other things we're going to do, I'm going to stick with you until you're truly able to do this. Wow, that keeps the brain open to work. It doesn't shut them down. And you're going to start seeing more engagement with those students as you give them those messages. Okay? So I hope that helps you. Help people select several goals. So So if they experience blockage in one, they're going to have success in another. And that's important too. So for example, when you're sitting with your students and you have, more than one learning goal. So you say, um, I noticed that you did an extremely wonderful job at putting punctuation at the end of your sentences. I did see that um, we need to work on putting capital letters at the beginning of our sentences. So I'm going to help you with that. But overall, I see your sentences improving, and I know and have confidence in you that you're going to work on this, and together we're going to see you write incredible essays, and you're going to pass that assessment. I know we're going to do this. What a great message to send to your students daily. Okay? Now, here's another one I tell teachers. Look, students need to know exactly how to meet these goals. So, for example, have you ever told your students, okay, I want you to study tonight for your test tomorrow? Well, I've done that. But did I stop and explain and show and model to them, what does study mean? How do we study? How many of your students know how to study? Well, how many of you say, you just need to get good grades? Okay, well, they want to get good grades, but what are the things you need to do to have good grades? So we need to break that down into actionable behaviors, right? So it can be measured. So we can give them strategies and help them to do that. So we need as educators to be more clear in specific actions that these students can take so they will be able to study and know how to study. We need to model that. Okay, so teach them how to study, teach them what it means and how do they get good grades. I mean, those are very specific. We can operationalize those in very specific steps. Okay, so let's go down to this one, re-goal when there's a blockage. All right, this is going to happen daily in some of your students' lives. They're going to try a strategy, it's not going to work, and we have to, like, let's convene here, reconvene, and let's talk. What's something else that we can do? And they're not going to come up with this on their own. We need to help them. Now, talking to your teachers, maybe you just run out of options. I don't know what else to do. Well, guess what? That's why you have all your friends, your teacher friends out there. We can become hope agents and support one another. I highly suggest that in your groups that you create this community that you can come to often and say, listen, I've been working with my students on this skill. We've tried every strategy. Some of them are getting it, some of them aren't. What are some of the things that you've done to help your students with strategies to meet this specific learning goal? And you start sharing these ideas. Folks, we need to collaborate. We need to help each other. We're in trying times. Teachers are having to gear up to teach online, to teach on cell phones, to teach synchronous and asynchronous populations at the same time. And we don't know how to do this. We're strained, we're stressed. But if we pull together, and right now during the pandemic more than ever, let's create these groups. Let's be each other's hope agents. Let's come up with ideas daily. I tried this app. I tried uh, this certain strategy. It seems to be working. What are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about that? We need to come together, and together we're always better. And I'm that seems simple, but in our daily lives, sometimes we just forget. We get so engrossed in the problems, we're not looking at the solutions. We need to look at solutions together, and that will give us all great hope. Okay. We want to keep on going thinking. So if you hear your students, I knew I was a loser. See, I've heard that all my life. I'm not going to amount to anything. I'm never going to accomplish anything. Listen, those students that have been told that their whole lives, that's what they believe. And all their thinking and all those thoughts, they're in the brain, and that's the first thing that pops up. That can change if we notice that as educators and we give them an alternative thought to replace those negative thoughts, and we have them practice that every time we hear that. We say to them, well, I hear you saying that you don't think you can do it, but I believe you can, and this is how you can. Okay, I believe in you, I'm with you, I'm not giving up on you. And every time you hear them, and you could even say, let's say that together. I want to hear you say it. You may not believe it yet, but I want you to know it's proven. If we start replacing the negative thought with a positive one, eventually you'll start to believe it. And I'm not going to let go of you till you do. I'm your hope agent. Wow. What an incredible thing that opportunity we have every day to help students believe in themselves and have hope. And every time you see a student flip to be uh, a high hoper when they've been a low hoper, that will increase your hope as a teacher. Yes. Oh, that makes me excited. So we want to help our students generate several pathways, and we've been talking about that. So that's something that's your job, teachers, to do. Okay. And eventually, when students start realizing this themselves, that they can do this, they can start helping each other. Isn't that a beautiful message to grow amongst our children, the future of tomorrow? This notion of helping each other. Oh, wow. That just is powerful to me. And then to teach them, if something doesn't work, hey, look, let's try this other route. Let's see how this works. Let them do these experiments together. Let them find these pathways together and celebrate those. Celebrate the successes every time they reach a step. Okay, these are the things that are going to change and grow their hope levels. Teach multiple paths, encourage them to think about their goals and that keep on thinking mentality, and remind them to ask for help. Now, this is a big idea in my mind. Low hope people don't want to ask for help. As a matter of fact, it's embarrassing to them. They don't want people to know that they don't believe in themselves. And as a matter of fact, they probably don't want any attention brought to themselves. But as teachers, we can start to recognize which students are thinking hopefully and which aren't. So we can encourage them to ask for help and give them the specific who to ask for help. Okay. So always giving them, listen, you can come to me, you can go to the principal, you can go to the counselor, you can go, show them and tell them who they can go to. Make a chart if you need to, because eventually they will ask for help if we encourage the idea of asking for help. So to increase motivation, just knowing that we can is very positive, but we need to watch that self-talk and those messages. And we want to flip those negative messages into the I can do this, I'm going to do this, I will keep at it. Those kinds of things. And you can even make positive affirmations and put them up in your classrooms or even on your Canvas wall or whatever, online platform. Have students think of their own positive self messages say to themselves or say to each other to create this I can do, this agency thinking, to increase this. So for example, in my class, I did not allow any negative, condemning uh, speech from my students to each other or to about themselves. And the way I did that I wouldn't call them out because that's embarrassing. I just, as the class as a whole, I would teach them If you're thinking this thought, it's a thought that's going to hinder you in your schoolwork and in your personal life. And here's a thought that a positive thought we can replace it with. And we would practice saying those together. So I didn't single out anyone. And we would do this often. So for example, if we have an assignment and several people have struggled with an assignment, so I would say, okay, some of you may be thinking, and I would point to this negative thought. So I want you to say with me together, I can do this. This is how we're going to do this. And I would have them do it out loud. Now, they may not have meant it inside, at first, but the more that we did that, the more hopeful thinkers they became. Okay. And I will tell you, as in regards to writing, um, and I'm bragging on my students right now, but when I was teaching high school writing, my students, all of my ESOL students, passed that 10th grade writing assessment. That had never happened in my district. And it's because I believe I gave them many, many, many strategies, specific. I praised them specifically. I monitored this self talk and what they said to each other. And we celebrated and we practiced and we worked on it so very hard together. They passed. They passed when students who weren't English learning students didn't pass. So to me, that's one of my big testimonies about this. Okay. I like to engage students in teamwork that fosters that notion of being in a community and being hope agents for each other. Plus, it's more fun. And guess what? If students are having fun, you're going to have more engagement and it's going to open up that neural pathway that lets off those positive endorphins and they're going to be happy learners. Wouldn't you like to have that in your class? You can do that, make it more fun. And I'm a storyteller, if you can't already tell, but telling stories is powerful. Providing literature that you can sit down and you can look at how characters in the story uh, tackled their problems. What strategies did they have? What was their thinking? What could they have done to have more strategies? What could they have done to help their thinking? Who in this story could they have asked for help? And so we don't have to have like a whole hope hour every day. We're going to learn about hope. No, it's actually infiltrated into your everyday um, academics if we put it into action. It's a way to think about your thinking and think about your work and yourself. So I have many more specific strategies, but they would cover like hours and hours of workshops, which I have. So I'm just trying to give you this overview today and get you excited about this, okay? And so therefore that proves the last point, which is encourage people to enjoy the process. You know, Meeting those goals is incredible, but we also have to learn in life to enjoy the journey. Okay, so let's enjoy the journey. Um, high hope people connect to hopeful people, our hope agents. We create and sustain excitement about the future, help people to believe in themselves, to celebrate and encourage with specific praise. We have the opportunity, teachers, to help students connect with caring, hopeful adults to imagine a better future. A lot of our students aren't born into families that have hope, actionable hope in their lives. And some students come to us quite the opposite. And since what we've already learned today is that can change. It can change for anyone. You may be that one teacher that they meet in their lives that influences their lives and teaches them these skills that they can take into their lives and teach their children, go into their new workplaces, and become hopeful agents for others. Now, there's nothing I can think of that's more powerful than that, because I've already shown you, and it's through the research, that as we do that, they're going to perform academically higher. They're going to reach these future goals that they have. So we have the power to do that as teachers. Okay. So remember, you're going to help people meet their goals. They can borrow your hope by saying, hey, look, I've been there, I've done that, let me help you. And we can do more together than we can alone. So let's be hope agents. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to open up the floor to questions from you. I'm going to look through the chat, and if someone would like to speak to me, I will add.
Thank you so very much, Donita. This was, very positive and great presentation. Wonderful ideas. We really liked it. And now the floor is open for questions if someone has questions. But, let me ask you one question. And that, we are going through this at crucial times of the pandemic. So, if I could ask you that, what is something that makes you feel hopeful right now?
Okay, so as it pertains to the pandemic in general, or for online teachers, or in what capacity? Because that's important to know what capacity.
Yep, in general perspectives about a pandemic, and as well as about online teachers and all this, systems.
Okay.
Yep.
So for the pandemic, here's
Mhm.
here's what I see, and what I've been experienced, because as you know, our numbers are record numbers of people, 100,000 people every day right now. We're in an incredible spike in the United States of America in COVID cases. And so through this pandemic, one thing is that we encourage each other to do the things that scientists tell us we need to do, like wearing a mask, social distancing, quarantining if you've been around someone who has COVID. I mean, the practical things. Okay. So that's encouraging, because the more we do the practical scientific things, the less that this COVID can spread, right? We just found out today on the news that we're closer to a vaccine. Now, whether or not, I mean, it's not going to be quick, or, we're not going to get the vaccine tomorrow, but these are hopeful steps, right? But setting that aside, what I'm doing in the United States to help teachers, and I'm doing with you to help teachers, and I encourage you to do this as teachers, it's been stressful. It's very stressful, but we can help each other. First of all, check in with each other. Get a small group together that you check in with each other. Are you okay? And so you keep community alive in the way that we can keep community alive. Listen, we live in a world with high technology. You're talking to me in Florida. I'm in Florida. You're on the other side of the world. This is positive. What we're doing today, this gives me hope that, and I love seeing how people work together. And to me, that gives me hope, and that we're learning strategies to work with online. It's not going to be better tomorrow, but every little step or every little strategy we find to help us learn how to better teach online, the more hope that gives me. And I think staying encouraging with each other. So maybe the biggest thing is just finding ways to have groups and pockets of people who support each other daily and weekly. And to me, that's a big deal. Okay. And sharing your strategies with each other. We're in this together. The world is in this together. And my hope is that going through this, we pull positives out of it. So, for example, could this bring our world closer together, meaning, tolerance for one another, more peaceful interactions with one another? I mean, that's what I hope for. I'm hoping that people will have peace and love for one another, and we can respect differences and celebrate um, places where we're alike. And that's some of my hopeful thinking from this negative situation.
Great. So I think we have another question, and that says, what is the first thing that instills a hope for learning in a child of 12 years who feels it's hectic or useless?
So, and I've had many of those. And thank you for that question. So the first thing is you as a teacher becoming aware of these things I've been talking to you about today, about goal setting, about helping them with strategies, and about celebrating. So, and I'll give you an example of one of my students. I had a student, and if I said sit down, he would stand up. If I said stand up, he would sit down. Have you had some of those students? I'm sure you do. So typically, the teacher would be constantly correcting them and disciplining them. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I took a different approach. I said, his name was Billy. Billy, will you come have lunch with me today? Why? Am I in trouble? What did I do? No, I just want you to come have lunch with me. So Billy came and had lunch with me. And I said, Billy, my board needs to be cleaned. Would you do that for me? Oh yeah, sure, I'll do it. So he cleaned the board. Billy, you did a remarkable job cleaning my board. Now look, at that point, that was the only positive thing I could find that Billy could do because he was so negative and always a problem. But I praised him for that. If you can find anything to praise them about it. So I praised him. This is a true story, by the way. Billy, I love the way that you cleaned my board. That helped me so much. I can't thank you enough. Well, guess who came to see me the next day at lunch? Uninvited. Can anybody guess? It was Billy. Billy started coming to have lunch with me every day. Why do you think Billy started coming to lunch with me every day? Because he heard
Wonderful, because of this connection.
because he had heard something he had never heard before. He had heard praise.
Wonderful.
So, but let me finish more to this story. So he started coming to me, and he started after some time. I didn't ask him. This was all Billy, but I would praise him for anything I could find that I could praise him for, Billy started opening up to me. Did you know, this was Billy, did you know that I haven't seen my dad since I was 2 years old? Wow. Did I ever start getting insight on why Billy was acting out? Billy was hurting. Okay. And the more time Billy spent with me, I was his safe place. And he started opening up. And guess what? Billy never, ever misbehaved in my class again. In fact, he became my class police. If I said sit down and students didn't, hey, you need to sit down. She said sit down. I mean, it was so flip flop, right? And then one day, Billy came to me and said, oh, ma'am, guess what? My dad is coming to see me. Now, listen, I burst into tears. I was so happy for Billy. His dad came to see him. Dad came to school to an open house. He hadn't seen him since he was 2. Billy couldn't wait to introduce his dad to me. Now I hope I'm answering your questions. I hope you can apply what I'm telling you to your 12-year-olds or whatever students you have. It doesn't matter if they're 16, 5, 10, it doesn't matter. Anybody. How about your friends who are 30 and 40? These are some things you can start doing. And then to finish this story, I was teaching music at the time, and I was putting on a musical. And I asked Billy to be one of the actors. in the play and the singers. Well, my teacher friends were like, "Are you crazy? I cannot believe you're going to have Billy. Oh my gosh, what a nightmare. You're going to have so much trouble." But guess what? I did not have any trouble. He was the most incredible cast person. He did such a beautiful job. And can you imagine? Billy had never been asked to do anything like that because he didn't have anybody who believed in him. It all started with asking him to clean my whiteboard. I hope that helps answer. I know that was a long story. I'm a storyteller, but I hope you can hear.
No, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful, so motivating, and I personally was touched by this story, and it has been a great with you. And we have this last interesting question, and it says, if you could choose between, three, and the words are faith, love, and hope.
Well, that is beautiful that you asked me that because can I tell you that hope is a major thread through every major religion, which that's been proven. That comes from Dr. Snyder. So,
Mhm.
hope is very, very powerful. And if you don't have hope, it's hard to have faith and love. So, they all three work together, in my opinion: faith, hope, and love. But you've got to be able to see it to believe it, kind of thing. So, in my opinion, I believe hope comes first. That's just me, but that's not proven or anything. But you asked me for my viewpoint on that personally, and so that's why I believe that if we can teach ourselves and our friends and our communities and our students to have hopeful thinking, it will increase their ability to love and have faith. Whatever your faith, your source of faith comes from, um, I believe that. I truly do.
Wonderful. So thanks everyone. We are slightly over time, but it has been a great and fruitful session. And thanks, Donita. It was a real pleasure having you here. And you can see all of social media channels. You can follow us for next webinars. And thanks for attendance. Thank you very much. And as we are seeing this second wave of coronavirus. So please, practice SOPs and do wear mask when outside. Thanks again.
Well, I will be praying for all of you, and I appreciate all your prayers for our country and for me as well. And if you want if any of your participants want uh, some of these instruments that I was talking about, if you send me an email, I'll send it to you and then you can distribute it. So just let me know in an email what you would like to have. You have my PowerPoint already. I'm seeing that some people would love my PowerPoint, and yes, you have that. And but if you want, and I gave you the hope scale, but there's the children's hope scale, and there's some other hope scales. So if you want any of those, you let me know and I'll send them to you. God bless you. Thank you. And please stay healthy. And hope that maybe again we can meet. Have a beautiful day and evening.
Sure, we'll do that. Really appreciate that.
Okay.
Great. Really appreciate that. We'll do that. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.